for you going forward. And so I'm going to introduce myself, and I would like a really quick just sort of shotgun round us all introducing you, and it might be just really interesting to tell me what your business idea is, sort of just briefly, because that helps me tailor the session. So before we dive into the session, you can start thinking about introducing yourselves. I want to think about ideas validation. So we all have these enterprising ideas. We have ideas for our businesses, and I give you complete permission for your ideas to change. If your ideas don't change during setting up a business, there's something wrong. They should grow. They may grow, certainly. You might have to pivot if you want to do some market research and find that customers or consumers are interested in a certain aspect you hadn't even had your eye on. You might also lose motivation and get really excited by something else. So the thing about ideas is to share them, light touch, and the key thing though is to start thinking about the value in ideas. That's the currency. Ideas essentially are currency. So I want to think about how we validate them. By now you've all got ideas you're working on, so you know how to generate them, I guess. But let's think about how you validate them. And business planning is just another form of ideas validation. So I'm going to look at validating first. Then we're going to think about, well, is there a need for a business plan, as in the document, whether that digital, hard copy, a movie, whatever it is for me. And then maybe break down the elements. I've done a massive slide deck, which I won't get through all of it, but you're very welcome to have it. And that gives you a lot more detail, like a story through the journey of putting a plan together. Think about process of planning. We're going to do some we'll do some business planning today, which I think is quite critical, because you can test some of these processes and then just sort of share with each other, share with me. So really, I want you to get a sense of what business planning is for you. And really, who might want to see that plan, who you might communicate and share that plan with. And I might get a chance, who knows, to introduce the customer development model. I've got some extra extending activities as well, who knows. It's your session, we've got till 1. I think I've already said I'll probably take a couple of breaks that'll be working breaks. So we'll probably have half an hour, 45 minutes away from the screen where you can have a pee, a tea, and do some work on your business thinking. So that's kind of my objectives. They're probably more aims, aren't they? So that's kind of what I've prepared for the session. But I'm kind of old and ugly at this, so we can go anywhere. I've got lots of stuff we can do. I've got a second computer if you want to pull up some different materials. So to give you a bit of background to me and why I might be leading our session today is I'm currently a lecturer at the business school at Teesside, although I've been an entrepreneurship fellow for about 25 years at Durham Uni, and I'm a visiting fellow at Newcastle, and my area is enterprise entrepreneurship, and my passion is for New Start. And over that time, I've worked with hundreds of startups, particularly actually, currently I'm working in the creative sector at Teesside. At Newcastle, I'm working in the biomed sector, so I'm looking at biomed tech innovation on devices, so working with engineers and medics there. And what am I doing at Durham? I'm working more in computer science and engineering. So that's kind of my spread, really. Although I'm expert in none of those topics, I'm certainly an expert in the business startup and the enterprise side. So again, I work commercially as well, because I'm part-time and freelance at higher education. So I work around going into companies and doing it for real, I guess, putting theory into practice. So I work in the third sector. I did a nice contract for the Eager Trust around building enterprising capacity in the third sector, so charities, not for profits, essentially. My LinkedIn's there. You're welcome to hook up with me. Some of the clients I've worked with are down there, and that's the reason I give you that, is just in terms of that might be a resource for you further down the line while you're working on the field program with Lizzie and the team at Launchpad. Okay, that's me. So I've given you me and the session, and it'd be really nice to hand over to you and just to shout out. So mic's on, please, and then just to shout out, just introduce yourself, that'd be great, and then what's your idea or your business that you're working on now, and that will help me hopefully tailor the session. Who would like to go first? Joanne, I can see Joanne. I can see Melissa. Do you want to put your microphones on and say hi?
Hi.
Joanne, what are you working on just now?
At the moment, I'm working on a photography business, which is pivoting a lot. But I'm
Good.
at the moment, I've decided to focus on the newborn sector within the Teesside area, and also to work alongside charities as well within the area. So
Okay.
it's pretty much a little bit of both. So yeah.
Great. Is your background photography? Is that something new for you? Is that?
It is. I've always had an interest in photography all my life, so I've been sort of a hobby photographer all my life. My background is health, and actually a midwife and health visitor. So I have sort of the experience of looking after, well, just understanding newborns really. Obviously, there are much better photographers than me, but but I am on a journey as well. So. Yeah.
Great. Not many photographers that are midwives as well, though, in terms of your sect. That's interesting. We start to think about value. Let's hold on to that. Great, Joanne. Thanks. Melissa, can you say hi?
Yeah, hi everyone. So I'm Melissa Armstrong, and we have a business. My business partner Marie's on here as well, called Key Wellbeing, and that is bringing simple solutions to workplace wellness. So we've just...
Gosh, that's so slick. Can you tell me that again? Simple solutions. And you've been at a pitching workshop, haven't you? Simple solutions.
We got totally narrow it down, so we've been working on that one.
Okay, so I'm going to get you to expand it all today and to see. So simple. Give me that again. Simple
solutions to workplace well-being.
Okay, I'm going to come back to you on that.
Right.
Thanks, Melissa. So I'm new to Zoom and I don't know how it goes. I can't see. Is it Maria? Marie's on the line as well. Is that right?
Yes.
Marie. Yes. Hi.
Hi. Lizzie, is it possible that I can have a view where I can see more people? What do I do? Do I have to do anything?
You'll have to stop screen sharing, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's not fine. Oh, I can't do that then. Lizzie, your mic isn't on. Okay. Well, I can't see that. I would just love you to shout out then, because I can hear you all. I can't see you all. Anyone else out there? Is it just three of us? Hello. Anyone else out there?
Hello.
Okay. There's always
Rachel.
Yeah.
Hi, Rachel.
I've got Ben here as well.
Ben.
Yeah.
Hi, Ben.
Hi.
We are making an upcycled golf course to take to events and festivals.
Oh, nice. An upcyclable golf course. Did I hear that?
Yeah, an upcycled golf course, yeah.
Basically using recycled materials to make it into a mini golf course.
Lovely. Is that something that would sit well at a festival of thrift?
Yes. It's literally what we do.
Yeah, I work with them, so that's great. Okay, so I see how Zoom works now. When you speak, you appear. So it's like the genie. Yeah. It's like the genie in the lamp. Great. So other people. Thanks, Rachel. Thanks, Ben. Who else is out there?
Hello. Can you hear me?
I can. I can't see you, but I can hear you.
Okay. Well, yes, I'm creating an app which will support primary schools and those working with primary age youth to deliver more effective PE in a fun way.
PE, is that physical ed?
Yes.
And can you tell me your name? You didn't give me your name. It's like spooky.
Sorry.
Who are you?
My name is Umran.
Umrad, great. Is that right, Umrad?
Umran.
Oh, sorry, Umran.
Yes.
Okay. So it's an app.
It's an online resource which will also be on an app, yes.
It's an online resource. Oh, interesting. You're doing web-based first.
Yes, it will be an online resource which will be accessible on an app and on a website.
Cool.
But basically, to support PE teachers more specifically, deliver strength and resistance training to improve strength in their youth in a primary school setting, which is that
going to the private sector schools as well as state? Yes,
all those working with primary age youth to key health markers.
Cool. Right. Thank you. Have you got anyone else? Thank you.
We can go next. I'm one of 4 people. There's only 2 of us on the call right now, me and James. We're Coco Comics, where we just graduated from the comics course at uni, and we want to become a comic book publishing company.
Comic web publishing company.
Yeah.
So that's other people's work, not just yours.
Not just ours, but we're all able to publish our own stuff as well. But we want to become a place for other artists too in the future.
Jamie, who else is with you? Jamie and is it Jamie?
Just James. James is here with me now.
James. And who are you?
I'm also part of the team. I guess we don't really have roles or anything. We all just kind of like do whatever needs doing, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
That sounds normal. That's fine. So James, I didn't get the second name.
Brady, Brady.
Oh, you mean
Brady.
Thomas? And Tom was talking first. I think.
Yeah.
I think it was.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So you didn't say who you. So Tom didn't get. Okay, great. Thank you. So we've got comics. We've got two digital apps. We've got a recycled physical golf course. We've got great photography. We've got the well-being simple. The neat simple. So that was such a good strap line. I have to come back to that one. Melissa and Maria. Okay. Anyone else, please? I know it takes a minute, but it helps me get a sense.
Hello.
Hi.
Hey. So we're an indie games company. I think the only ones on the call is me, Mike, Bobby, and Jamie.
Who's me?
We're all part of the team. Kyle.
Oh, Kyle. Okay.
Yeah.
And you're an indie. What? Sorry. What does indie mean? Independent?
Yeah, independent games company.
Okay. Alrighty. Games meaning what?
Video games.
Okay.
She doesn't.
For who? For who? Don't know yet. So it's just a.
For who? Sorry, what?
For who? Video games for who? Have you got a target just now, or is it just more the process and?
We have a wide target audience. We're aiming at like 15 to 30-year-olds and stuff, but obviously it vary by game depending on who's interested.
Okay. Why is it important to say that you're indie? Why is that important? Is that significant? Or
I don't know. It's just indie games company. I don't know what the difference is between indie or normal games company, but I've always just assumed a startup thingy would be an indie company.
I don't think there is any actually. I'd say a games company. If you were not independent, you would be working. Independent just means it's your own business. You might think indie is a subculture. I don't know. That's why I wondered, but I don't think it might be by the sound of it. So I would play with that one interestingly, because to introduce yourself to that, and if it's maybe not, yeah, it's just an interesting one. We'll think about that.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. Anyone else out there?
Yeah, I'll go. Yeah. Yeah. So there's myself, Matthew. So myself, Gareth, Matthew, and Callum, and we make up Sencode, and we're a cybersecurity company. So we predominantly work with companies to help them secure environments. So it's penetration testing, but we're also trying to validate some software ideas as well. So we're currently reaching out to customers and trying to validate some software products
that you've designed.
That we're going to design. So we've got a wireframe and everything else, but we're reaching out to our potential customers at the minute.
Have you got terms and contracts, terms and conditions around that? Have you spoken to a lawyer?
We've got terms and conditions, but we don't have it. We don't have it exclusively for a product. Why did you say that? Sorry.
I'm just interested because you might have something of real value there, but everyone.
Right.
But I just think it's quite easy to copy because you can't patent IT. So I just wondered if you'd had.
Yeah, I see. Okay.
Okay, we can come back to that. Great, thank you. Thanks, Gareth. Sencode, is that right? Sencode.
Yes, Sencode cybersecurity. Yeah.
Gosh, the universities need you right now, huh?
Exactly.
Particularly Newcastle. Gosh, we're stuffed. We can't get in.
Yeah,
okay.
Because I let the cyber breach not long ago.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay, who else? Anyone else? I'm sorry, I can't see you. So
Hello.
Hi.
Hi there. My name's Joseph. I'm from Create Teesside. We're a job recruit. We're trying to create a website for job recruitment in the local area.
Job recruit in any particular sector or particular target, like young people, graduate?
Initially, we're going to focus on more smaller industries, SMEs, and then hopefully expand into larger territories and across the nation, obviously in the future.
Did you say Create Teesside? I like that. Create.
Yeah, Create Teesside, yeah.
Create Teesside. How many is there? Sorry? How many folk?
It's just me and Stephen, but he's not here. I'm just doing the field courses.
That's fine. Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is that everyone, Lizzie?
There's a couple more. No, there's Jude, Sophia, and Edgar.
Okay.
Sorry, Edgar.
Edgar out there?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, hi.
All right, yeah, I'm working on app for students basically, and I want to motivate them to enjoy different activities using different motivation tools like gamification.
Yeah. It's students. Did you say students?
Well, yes, my first target are students, but then I can go up and go to a
Okay.
person.
Thanks, Edgar. Anyone else out there?
Yep, I'll go next.
Go for it, Sophia.
My name is Sophia Gowland and my business is called The Petite Agency. So what I'm wanting to do is help business owners get ahead, basically, and that's by creating a marketing and management company.
Well, you can help me then. Do the planning session. I'll come to you. Gosh, okay, Sophie, you're on the spot now. Great. So we all need a bit of Sophie in our businesses. Great. So marketing and, what was it?
Marketing and management. It's basically, so anything a marketing manager or business development manager would get asked to do internally in a role. It's kind of bringing that into an offering as an agency.
Great.
Yeah.
Professional service, and I guess that's SMEs or who? Yeah, is it independents and SMEs or?
I have two completely opposite target markets. One of them is startups, and the other one is like solo entrepreneurs. So yeah, SMEs. You know, the people who just don't have the time to do everything, but everything is on their list to do.
And you're going to work virtually with that? I mean, not post-COVID. Is that something that's going to be an online offering?
Yeah, I'm doing it right now. So I've already got clients who I'm looking after, and it's just kind of on Zoom, over the phone.
Why petite?
There's a long story behind the word, but the petite agency. Do you know what? I'm so indecisive, and I couldn't think of a name. And I started off this campaign at the start of lockdown, and the name, and it went quite big, and a lot of people in Teesside knew it. And before I knew it, that was just the name of my business. So I kind of have to stick with it now.
The petite agency. Okay. Nice. Okay, great. That seems to be everybody.
There's Julie. No, Julie's there somewhere, I think.
Julie, hi Julie. Sorry, you're last, but certainly not least.
You there, Julie?
Hello.
Maybe not.
Can you introduce Julie to me, Lizzie?
Yeah, Julie's creating an app for mental health to help children with their mental health called Scribbletastic.
Scribbletastic.
Yeah. But I think she's decided she's pivoted to go back to the sort of traditional paper and pen, sort of more less technical to start with. I think that was her recent pivot. So I think originally it was going to be an app, but it's going to be traditional materials now to get early intervention.
Maybe nice to link with Sarah at Start Studios, Sarah Calgi, just down the road from the university. Fantastic. Yeah. She's fantastic. But
okay.
He's yeah, so that might be so. Start Studios. You can look her on LinkedIn, and it's all around. It's creative education for teachers, but also if it's a big space for kids, and she's doing lots of online stuff at the minute. So that might be
sounds good.
A nice partnership. Alrighty, I think.
Just quickly, is that the art studio just off Linthorpe Road?
Yes, it's beautiful.
Is that not closed now? I'm pretty sure she's closed now, isn't she?
I think she's closed the studio, but she does online lessons. Yeah.
Oh right, yeah. Because my daughter used to go there, and I thought she was closed.
It's got those beautiful stained glass windows, hasn't it?
Yes,
that you can't see from the outside. And when you come in, was it a Swedish church?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
I realised there was such a big Swedish population in Teesside. There we go. Anyway, so yes, that studio. She's great, and also it's just interesting. Start making connections in your area, isn't it?
Yeah, brilliant. That's great.
Alrighty, so I'm going to get to go. Goodness knows how this is going to go because I'm really much comfy in person, but let's fly. Okay, so what were we doing? We were doing a bit of me and you and the session. Is there any questions before we deep dive into what we're doing today? Housekeeping wise, we've got 10 till 1. We're going to take a couple of longer breaks, which are working breaks. I hope you've all got a pen and paper or a pencil and paper, even better. That would be good. Scrabble around for that. Because we're going to do some stuff. You can use a keyboard as well, but I think it's often interesting to be able to quickly jot things down, so that will be good. Alrighty. Okay, so The work I do as a business consultant or within HE, or is obviously, not obviously, but being associated to higher education, it's research led. So hopefully my work is about enterprise. So enterprise, yes, is in business, but it's in all the sections of our sort of working and career life. So being enterprising, so thinking about enterprise, but also doing it to develop new ventures. So enterprise can be for profit, not for profit, and trying to sort of work with students, clients, teams in an enterprising way. So it's kind of about, for, and through enterprise. And a lot of the stuff I'm going to share with you sort of based in research projects that I've been involved in. But research is only as good really as it's tested in practice. So some of the theories we could work with and you can take will resonate with some more than others. And the key thing is to test them and to adapt them and to implement them. Otherwise, they're just theories. They're just cerebral. It's just in our head. So hopefully my style is quite pragmatic. You can kind of see in some of those pictures. That's me. What's that? That's me. That's me teaching in a big lecture theatre at Durham. Look, and we're not even using the blackboard, and we're using all the different spaces. And yeah, try and create events where learning becomes a bit more creative and hopefully a bit more innovative to support your business development. So this is space and time for you out of your business. You're working on your business and often we're busy working in it, trying to get clients and sales and trying to get networks. So this is your luxury time. So, do question, hopefully work on the activities that I set, and the activities will be completely based on developing your projects or businesses to date. All right, so let's just warm up. Let's just think about donuts. You are all donut manufacturers. And if you can play with this scenario, the raw materials to make your donuts are about 20p a unit. But as things happen, and the one thing we are assured of is change in our external environment, because of competition, you can only sell them at 50p. So 20p to produce, 50p ceiling to sell. However, there is a change in your costs of your raw materials. Materials go up, and the donuts now cost you 25p. So what strategies might you employ to cope with this market condition? Just jot some ideas down for yourself to start with. There is no right or wrong answer to this, and hopefully it will help us explore a little bit about what strategy is. Before we crack on, is there any questions about the task or the question I'm asking? So, what strategies might you employ to cope with the changing market condition? Markets are external to us. We go to markets to exchange products and services and our goods, literally, whether it's digitally or physically. And one thing we can be assured of, the marketplace is always changing. So what can we do? Anyway, okay, so that's time to scribble a few ideas down. Anybody like to, it's a bit like bingo this. If we can listen to each other's responses, you can't have the same one, okay? So in bingo, you can only pull one number out of the hat at a time, and you can't, that number won't appear again. Let's just try and build on each other's answers and not duplicate. Okay, so who would like to go first? What could you, might you, should you do in this situation?
I guess, oh, sorry, loads of feedback. I guess you could increase the cost of a donut to match the cost, the production increase cost. So you could increase it by 5p, so that your donuts are now 55p instead of 20p. Sorry, 50p. I have two, but shall I just say one?
Well, first of all, that one, you can't do that, because if you say the competition won't allow you to sell them more than 50p. So you can't pass on, that's the only rule really, you can't pass on the cost to the customer.
Oh, no more. Does that, so the competitions, that was my second one. I was going to say, check how the competition was affected by these market changes and then adjust accordingly.
Yeah, so you can't put the price up. A good try. You can't put the price up, but you can do lots of other things. So you can't pass on the cost to you onto your customer. So you can't put up the price of what you sell the donut for. No more than 50p, but you can do other things. That's okay for now. But anyone else got any other ideas to build on that?
I've wrote 3 down.
Okay.
Make the donuts smaller, just very, very slightly smaller.
In what sense? Is that which bit of the donut would you make smaller?
I'm not quite sure, but I know that manufacturers tend to do that. If, for instance, the sugar tax made everything smaller, and nobody seemed to care, and people are still buying chocolate. You know, you could.
So the price is the same and make the product smaller. That's interesting.
Very, just a little bit. You know, 5 or 10% smaller, and then absorb that cost.
What's the implications of so your product size? In this case, maybe the circumference of the donut is maybe small. What is the implications of that in producing a donut? What's the implications? It's a great idea, and companies do it. What's the implications in the company?
It could be reputational. Like it could damage reputation if they've made it smaller.
Yeah. What else might happen if you have to change the manufacturing process?
Could increase the costs of manufacturing, I suppose, if you had to change it dramatically. But I can't imagine it would, though, would it?
I don't know. It's not my business. It's yours. Tell me. Yeah. So you might.
I mean,
I've
been manufacturing donuts for years, so you know.
I know. I knew you haven't. So, and in that, but so you probably had quite a lot of investment in machinery, so you might have to reinvest.
Yeah.
Just to maybe produce. I think it's quite clever. The companies you're talking about, the sugar tax. Also, there was that shortage in cocoa. Do you remember about? I think it was Christmas. I know this because my favourite chocolate Toblerone. They changed the space in between the pieces. Can I say the triangles? But they didn't change the overall circumference or outside the outside.
That's genius.
Isn't that genius? So they didn't have to invest in new machinery. And so the packaging was the same, yada, 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 but actually is less chocolate in there.
Yeah.
So making smaller by creating more space in between the pieces, it was genius, wasn't it? Yeah. Okay, great. Would you like to share one more of your 3?
Look at new suppliers. So figure out why why it's costing you more. Surely you can change your supplier and resolve that situation. I would imagine that would be the first thing you would look at, is looking at new suppliers.
Would it? Why is that? That's interesting. Why would that be the first thing? I like that.
Just because there's always going to be competition for the suppliers as well. So I would imagine you would, if one of your suppliers has changed their prices or something's happened on that supply chain which has made it more expensive, there's going to be a competitor that hasn't had that issue, or that might have foreseen that issue and resolved it early. I don't know. But usually there's a case where you change your supplier. There's plenty of companies.
And what's the consequence of changing suppliers down the line? Great idea, but there's definitely consequence in a little business. Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Yeah. Anyone can help. Sorry, what's your name? Because I can't see you. Who?
Gareth. Sorry, I'll put my video on. I keep turning it off.
It's okay. That would help, guys, because it doesn't affect the quality, because I'm flying blind otherwise. So Gareth is saying about can someone else speak to Gareth's point? So he's suggested, quite rightly, shop around, look at different suppliers. And I didn't really put this out there, but let's say this is a small business, because you are all small business. Put it in the context of a small business. If you change supplier, what's the potential consequence, good and bad, of that? Good one Gareth had identified would be potentially, I guess they may have somewhere they can supply it cheaper. I don't know. But what is the consequence of changing a supplier? Because it's quite a critical stakeholder in a business, your supplier.
I've got an idea for that.
Yeah.
KFC is a prime example of why you shouldn't change your supplier as quickly as like that.
Yeah.
Because they did it for their chicken, and then for a good several months they had no chicken in the branches.
The best one was what was that one that's a chicken restaurant? My daughter liked it. I couldn't bear it, but we went. It's all just chicken, and you go and Nando's.
Oh yeah.
At Christmas had no chicken. That's not the great stuff there, because it's a chicken restaurant. Yeah, so essentially we often think about our businesses and a really key stakeholder being our customers, and really looking after our customers, customer-led design, customer-centric marketing campaigns, customer-centric, business development, user experience if we're doing digital. But we can't supply those customers if we ourselves don't have really good relationships with our suppliers. And generally in a small business, your suppliers become family, really. And they can help you in time. For example, they could help you with cash flow. So maybe you could delay paying them in a certain period to create cash flow through your business, or you may, you've got that relationship where they know it's coming, that you're good for your word, because often a lot of small business is not done on that many contracts, really. I mean, I know there's the lawyers in this space will think, yes, everything should have contracts and terms and conditions. Yes, it does, but in small business, you can shout back at me, I could be wrong, but my experience is a lot of it's done on trust and relationship building and kind of who you know. So who you know becomes really important as what you know. So know who, critical, and knowing your suppliers is great. So absolutely, yes, it's a solution to shop around for suppliers. There could be some better deal, you develop a better relationship, but there could be consequences if that transition is made too quickly and that relationship is broken. Great. Any comments on that, or anyone else got a different idea for our donuts?
Yeah, I might do. Yeah. Invest in more automation.
Because it's Joseph.
Callum from Senko.
Okay.
Try and invest more in automation so that you don't have to pay staff as much.
Oh, so we're getting rid of people now.
Yep.
Okay, great. Okay, sack them. So what's the consequences of getting rid of people? I like that. So we bring a bit more sort of robots in. Great. I mean, but as you get to know me, I'm quite geeky and I love a bit of robots. Best robot in my life is my dishwasher. Couldn't live without that. So what's the consequence of getting rid of folk and bringing in more automation? Great solution, but what's the consequences of that, or things we need to consider in our business down the line?
Research and development. I mean, to automate a new process is going to cost you, could potentially cost you hundreds of thousands of pounds. And
yeah, potentially.
Yeah, but they're expendable once they've made the robots. We can get rid of them.
Yeah. All right. You're banking on the fact that you've got that money available for R&D, though, I suppose.
Well, I've been making donuts for years. Of course, I've got the money. I've got a pool. I've got a donut vault filled with donut money. It's all going into making so I can bring down the prices of these donuts using automation and getting rid of everything.
Brilliant. So I think the outcome is reducing. Did you say the cost or the price? You said two different things there.
So I wouldn't necessarily want to reduce the cost, but I would want to reduce the price it costs me to manufacture.
Oh, why would you want to reduce the price? That's interesting.
The cost for me for manufacturing.
Oh, the cost, you want to reduce the cost, but you're going to keep the same price, yeah?
So long as it's competitive, I don't know why I would reduce the price. It seems like, unless I was making something unless I wanted to get a leg up on my competitors and they weren't automating things.
I like that. I think it's really important not to lead on price. I'd like to do finance with you, but I'm not doing your finance session. But if you're doing one of my finance sessions, key rule is not to compete on price. You ain't going to be the cheapest. But maybe if you've got price by very nature to keep this profit line you have now, then your volume is going to increase significantly. Often if we just increase, actually, did anyone, you can't have it in this scenario, but if accountants throw donuts at me when I say this, but often my strategy when working with small business is to actually slightly increase the price. You can't in this scenario, because then it's interesting how much more space it gives that company for R&D, you mentioned that, and space to think about new strategies, because there's a significant and disproportionate drop in the volume of sales you need to achieve to maintain current profit margins. So a misnomer is, if I reduce my prices by 5%, I've only got to maybe make 5% more in sales. It's rubbish. We have to make about 68% more. It's incredible. If I conversely flip that and I increase my prices by, say, 5%, it gives you about 30 to 40% more margin against your profit line, just to have some time off, have a holiday, do some R&D, and keep your profit margins static. So it's really interesting we start playing with price. But I do love your idea of automating. I'm not sure about sacking all these people, but there you go. Again, there's no one solution. Has anyone got anything a bit wild and radical? Anything else you could do? Hey, there's a few marketing people in the room. What would you do marketing wise? So we've had ideas around production. We've had ideas around efficiency. We've had ideas around staff. We've had ideas around supplying. We've had ideas about quality and cost. Anything around marketing we could do?
Sorry, it's Marie from
Hi.
Key Wellbeing. Hi. Could you decide not to compete in this market anymore and use the machinery that you've got, the staff that you've got, and maybe look at doing organic donuts or gluten-free donuts, and then get, I don't know, a marketing strategy around that, create a buzz around your product line.
Good. And what's the consequences of that, Marie? I like it. So we're looking at maybe more niche. We're looking at a different, am I understanding it? We're looking at a different market sector for augmenting the product somehow. Is that right? I don't know.
Yeah, I guess so. So you're going to have to find your new buyers. I don't know, lean on an influencer who's got, you know, thousands of followers around your...
What's an influencer? What's an influencer got to do with it? Right, I like it. Let's just get an influencer.
Someone with a huge following in that area. So maybe it's vegan, maybe it's gluten-free, maybe it's organic. Or
so when you say influencer, is this online influencer? Who's this influencer? Donald Trump? Who's the influencer?
Well, I'd probably find a local influencer if I possibly could. Or
why is that, Marie? Just put it down, because it's great. There's some great stuff, but why would you do that?
Well, because I'm not going to ship my donuts internationally.
Right. So you've got a local perfect. You've got a local influencer. I'm guessing by influencer you're looking at something around social media. You didn't mention that, but it's online.
Oh, sorry, yeah, that was an assumption.
Yeah, you've got to be careful, because it's as you know, we still need sort of traditional marketing as well as digital. I don't know, maybe do we? I don't know, maybe we don't.
And maybe looking at someone that's already got the market that you want. So maybe you partner with an organic coffee shop, or you go to a vegan store, or you get someone to cross promote their followers you've already got.
Nice. All right, great. So you're kind of getting it. So there's any of these, all of the solutions actually, or all the recommendations are great, but it really depends on your context. Yeah, depends on your level of available cash, skill set, so marketing skills, through to manufacturing skills, through to robots, through to different suppliers. You know, it's just the key messages. There is not a blueprint, and those people that say there is, or there's 5 tips to this or 2 strategies to that, it's just, they wouldn't be sitting here telling you that they'd be millionaires. There's not really a golden bullet. The key thing though is to think about your context, your situation, and what capacity, skill set, and how you want to design this organization. This actually was any other comments before we move on, and I'll tell you what we actually did, because this is actually one of my clients. Any other comments? You've had a great idea. I love that augmenting the product, as in putting it with a coffee. I loved niching it, as in organic or vegan. Oh, I don't even like donuts at this point.
I thought of changing the flavour of the centre to a cheaper product.
Does it have a flavoured centre? I didn't realise that. That's great. It's got flavoured centre. What's in this? So it's vanilla, chocolate, jam. What's in it?
Usually jam, aren't they? So if you change it to custard, which is probably cheaper than jam, and then so
nice.
It's an amazing new product, and then bump up the price a bit.
This is a Teesside donut or something, like something very, is it like a vanilla top or something in Saltburn?
Ooh, bechamel cheese in the centre. You could make it a Parmo donut.
Parmo donut? Yeah.
You can only sell those in Teesside though.
Yeah, Parmo donut. I still haven't had a Parmo. I must get one. I don't know. I mean, I grew up in Teesside, but when I grew up, not old, they weren't there. It's something that's happened while I've been away. So Marie, you could link, I liked Matthew and Marie's idea here, something around this sort of, I don't know, making quite a unique local product, the Parmo donut, the lemon top donut, whatever it is, and then getting that influencer that's local. You can see how that might all come together in a really nice story around that donut. Great. Alrighty, so the company actually put a hole in the middle. That's what they did. They were not as creative as you guys. And they did that just so they didn't have to retool the main manufacturing line. And it was a bit like the Toblerone example in a sense, because their packaging and we did put kind of a hole in the middle. But key thing there, the marketplace is changing. There's no golden bullet, but it's to really sort of think about your solutions through, and as you start correcting each other and chipping in, don't kind of sack people, not necessarily bring in robots, what might happen there if I change supplier? It's kind of thinking what happens as you work it through your business. So hopefully, we're going to think about planning for changes that might happen in your marketplace, and planning is really about anticipating some of those changes, having some contingency, and feeling you've got kind of creating your own blueprint for your venture. All right, okay, I'd like you to now think about this question, and it's not an easy question. Who would you like to have a conversation with? Someone who you consider would add value to your business development, And most importantly, I'd like you to tell me why. Now, not everyone has to feedback on this one, and we'll be here, but I would like some people to feedback and we get a sense of that. So look, adding value now, and we're bringing the idea of value in to our business development. Who would you like to have a conversation with? My trade under the name Conversations with Purpose, that's my freelance. Because my research showed that, business development is often a social process. And I'm very heavily involved in mentoring and coaching. And for me, and people say, what is mentoring? What is mentoring? How is it different to coaching? And I say, well, it's a conversation with purpose. So who would you like to have that conversation? And most importantly, why? They can be living today, or they can be a person from the past, your past or historically past. Does anyone not understand the task I'm setting? All right, you just take a few moments. And I've just heard my doorbell. I'm going to nip and just see if my daughter's managed to get herself out of bed to answer the door, and I'll be back in a second. Okay.
I actually popped up to the toilet there, so I've missed the activity. What am I supposed to be doing, please?
On the screen. Who you can, yeah, just answer the question for yourself. I popped out to the door. The delivery's come, but we can't get to it, so that's fine.
All right.
Also, can I ask you to write this down for yourself, particularly if you're not going to be sharing? It's a good prompt. It's quite a good insight that might be useful later in the session. We've got live schooling happening downstairs at the minute as well. It's all going on in this house. Okay, is anyone happy to share? Who, and most importantly, why really? That's what I'm interested in.
I'll go. I would.
Great.
Maybe the designers of the game Fortnite. You must have heard of the game Fortnite. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Just, I'd love to speak to them to see what they think it was that made their game so addictive, and how they attracted so many children, and what it was about their characters and animated themes that got that response to the game.
Mm-hmm. Do you know the designers? Did you say the designers?
Yeah.
Are you in contact with them?
Absolutely not. No. Sometimes you think that them guys are so big they would never even see your email. But I guess that's just a. What's
it? Is it 6 degrees of separation? Is that right? 6 handshakes to the Pope. So you're at Teesside, and are you associate? I mean, I know folk on the program, but I mean, we have the big. There's a fantastic IT department, isn't there? And then digital gaming department.
Yeah, exactly. The Animate at Teesside are amazing. It's one of the best unis for it.
So that might be an interesting one.
Yeah.
Go and see Siobhan and see who's working with who, what's the client list at the minute, because it might not be too hard. The key thing as well is to have a really specific question like that, rather than just, I'm so chuffed, I like your game, I'm a big fan kind of thing. It's like, really, what might add value? So this addictiveness, why is that interesting to you, addictiveness? Why do you use that word addictiveness?
Well, I'd say addictive. Maybe I mean engaging. The ability to get so many kids engaged in something like that could be used for a great good, which is what I'm trying to do essentially.
So something about stickiness, something about compulsiveness. Yeah, interesting.
I remember, as a kid, Pokemon. That was just. I mean, remember them cards? They were addictive. You'd love that kind of thing, and I don't know why, but you look at them now, and the nostalgia you get. It's something about them. Characters are. See, I'm not sure exactly what it is, but if you could encapsulate that and then use it to yeah.
Great. I think maybe you should. There's quite a lot of literature around engagement and stickiness around apps and applications. So that if you kind of put those into Google Scholar, I don't know if do you use the Google Scholar much to have a look, because I mean the whole thing around design. Unfortunately, the darker side of this is addictiveness to certain apps and stuff. So you can have a look at that, particularly sort of like the gambling apps and stuff.
Yeah.
And there's lots of psychologists hired to really break that down.
Yeah.
So incentive, what are the incentives? What are then, when does that tip, the tipping point, and etc. And then, like you say, you can flip that into the doing good. There's, I've seen a lot of work around that. So it might be interesting to do a bit of background research on the secondary literature first, and then you get a sense of, and then if you don't want to read the whole papers, I just flick to the back and see who the authors read.
Yeah.
And look at something in the last, nothing older than 5 years. Not relevant anymore. Have a look at market research around that. So we're going to get onto secondary market literature soon. So that would be really good for you to have a look at your marketplace and reach out to them and see who knows them. So get an introduction.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
Brilliant, Omar. That's great. Thank you. Anyone else? Who would you like to have a conversation with, and why is the important bit?
I've got someone.
Yeah, great. Hi.
I would speak to a guy called Naval Ravikant, who is the CEO of a company called AngelList. So he's an investor, an entrepreneur. He came up from India, moved to America, made millions. I listened to a lot of his podcasts and stuff. So I guess I could get quite a lot of business insights and marketing insights, and I could pitch my idea and maybe get an investment from him. So it's a multifaceted conversation, I'd hope.
If you were to meet him, what would be really what you want to find out? Because that was very broad and it's great, and some of that would be developing a relationship to get to investment point. What do you think would add the most value right now to your business if you were to speak to him? Did that come through? Getting feedback, sorry.
Well, most likely marketing tips and finance tips. A lot of podcasts. Yeah, sorry, it's terrible. But here's a lot of work on businesses, how businesses run, equity, and finance, and then obviously investments. Investments would be the main one. Obviously, speaking to invest will increase business.
I'm sorry, I don't know if it's just me, but you're really breaking up.
Yeah, I couldn't hear any of that.
Can people everyone else stick their mics off? That might help.
Yeah.
That would be my main focus. Can't really go wrong with that. You can pay for any cost in the world if you have £100,000.
Sorry, it's too difficult for me to get. People stick their videos off as well, maybe. Let's just try one more. That's it, that's better. I'm sorry, I think I've lost you.
Wendy, we could get him to put it in the chat and then maybe just read out what he said.
How do I get chat?
I'll get it. So if Joseph puts in what he's answered, and I'll read it out for him. Just
okay.
Joseph, did you hear what I said? If you just type it into the chat, I'll try and read it out for you.
I'm just going to give up and yes.
Okay, sorry, am I coming across clearly? Lizzie, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, it's fine. I think it's just Joseph's had some problems with his sound all along, actually. So I'm just going to write it in the comments, and when he's ready, I'll if we come back to him.
Okay, Jess, we'll come back to you. Can you else share who and why? That would be great, because it gives you an insight into where you are, your development. Anyone else like to share who could add value to your business, and most importantly, why? We're going to take a break soon, so don't worry. If you're getting a bit flagging, have a coffee.
I'll share one. Oh, sorry.
Great. No, go ahead.
It was just that I was looking around for inspiration from a really good photographer, and I came across an Australian photographer who's called Kelly Brown, and I would really love to have a conversation with her because she's got a great business set up, and she really makes the customer the most important aspect of a business, and I really like the style that she uses. So she's pretty much got a very much customer focused photography business. So that's somebody I'd really like to discuss. How she
What particularly would you like right now for you? What would help?
What would help?
So you start the conversation. Obviously, you could have if you have an initial conversation, what do you think might add the greatest value right now? Talking to Kelly.
Right now, I think it would be, where do you get your customers, and the website really, and how to sort of find your customers, and the areas that you have people that are able to pay for your services where they live. Obviously, it's a bit different in Australia and America, because I think England is not the same in that it's really important to have photographs in both those countries, whereas here it is important, but it's not such a culture. So it's quite interesting. I've just been researching the different areas, and I just noticed that there's a lot of work for newborn photography in Australia and America. And here there's not so many businesses, but it's obviously a niche that can be started, and there's lots of babies being born. So always going to be babies born, and Teesside has got quite a high area of newborn babies as well. So yeah,
have you got a mentor that's a photographer in this area? Have you got someone locally?
I've actually I'm going to be speaking to someone next week, a man called Jeff Brown, and he's on LinkedIn. And he's pretty much got every single photographer on his connections. So he's a really good person to speak to. And he was telling me to really narrow down your niche. And that's why I narrowed it down to newborn photography, mainly because I have that background as well in being a midwife and health visitor. So it's
what you've also got is routes to market, because you've got colleagues that are midwives.
I don't know many midwives at the moment in this area, but it's certainly I can get that side of it. I'm not working as a midwife or a health visitor at the moment.
But it may be that through things like the NCT and etc., the sort of networks.
Yes, yeah.
There may be touch points. So think about routes to market. I'd recommend Angela Fennig to you. I don't know if you're familiar with her work. She lives in the seaside bit of Teesside.
Okay.
She oh gosh, I can't remember the coastline. It's more sort of Seaham. That's more Geordie land, isn't it?
Yeah.
That kind of way. Yeah, she lives around there, and her work's great. And I can broker an introduction to you.
That'd be great. Yeah. What's her surname again? Did you say?
As in the shop, Fennigs. Do you know Fennigs the shop?
Yeah,
Angela Fennig. Yeah.
Fennig. Okay, then that would be great.
Great. Okay. So thinking back to, it's really important that we're not going to share everyone's, but writing down how they can add value right now. Mm-hmm. Yes, it'd be nice to have investment, and that's potential, and that's a longer term conversation. But if you were to build some rapport and something you were interested in, something you admired, something you liked about that work, it's much easier to open the conversation with that person that you've really thought about an aspect of the work that you admire, or that you want to learn something from, or that you would like to capture and adapt for your business. I think people are really willing then to offer their time to speak to you, because in general, hey, great, I like your work, because we can get overwhelmed by people that we admire. But I think when you can get in front of people and get that initial conversation, if you can really be specific, something right now that really might help, and also as well, how you might be able to help them. I don't know. Finding out a bit more about their work and feeding something back, because I think it's just like what you can exchange at this point. Maybe they're down the journey further than you. They're maybe quite an icon for you, so you may not be able to think about what you can put back in. But certainly, offering internships and volunteering or whatever, really, it's just interesting to think about how really they can add value to your business. But maybe what you might be able to share back. I don't know on that one. I'll leave you with that. Is there any questions on that task before we move? I think Thomas was going to share before we go. Was it Thomas?
Yeah, I can share.
Yeah, I think it was Thomas that was going to speak.
Yeah, so the answer I had was, I want to talk to... Sorry, there's just some feedback coming through. Yeah, so I'd like to talk to Todd McFarlane, who started Image Comics in the 90s, and Image Comics is still the biggest comic book publisher outside of Marvel and DC, and he's been able to keep some of the best comics coming out of his company for 30 years, and I'd like to speak to him about how he managed to market himself at the start and how he was able to keep his brand so appealing for this long.
That'd be interesting to say, why hasn't he partnered as well, and why he's still independent?
Yeah, well, he started at Marvel, and then he got a raw deal, and then he started his own company because of it, and because his name was so big, because he worked on Spider-Man and stuff like that. People trusted him. Like, that was kind of the big reason that he was able to start it. But I think, you know, for doing it for 30 years, you need more than just like recognition from one comic. So I think he'd probably be interesting to talk to about that.
What I heard you say as well about how he caught his customers initially, was that right? Did I hear that?
Yeah, I'd like to know how he was able to convince, you know, a large portion of the comic reading community, like to switch from, you know, what they were so comfortable with Marvel and DC. I think that being able to do that was like a pretty massive success story.
It's interesting that now we're switching to you becoming influencers. How did he? So I like the notion for me about catching customers.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you go fish, you put your line out and you catch, and you throw some fish back. You don't want every customer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You want to catch customers. You're influencing. So, and that's a little bit. Sorry, I can't see everyone's names, but Joanne that was just speaking as well. She wanted to talk to Kelly in the States around how Australia, how she caught her customers as well. And that kind of, it's okay for people to say, I'm going to niche, should be really specific, but I think it's interesting to throw stuff out there and see what, in terms of fishing, who bites, and building on that, and then that kind of word of mouth spreading and building a kind of, I would hasten to say movement, but kind of like, you know, a community feel around it.
Yeah, definitely.
And really then, you know, trying to test and iterate with your consumers or your users, and often I think people that speak to may say they followed that kind of lead and it developed, they'll say organically, it won't be organically, but they'll say quite naturally. Mm-hmm. And that's about having that rapport and that two-way conversation and exchanging. So even if you're getting in touch with someone and exchanging your admiration, your gratitude, something you admire, that's an exchange. Yeah, that, think about when you're taking from people, what can you put back in? And it also empowers you not to feel like you don't want to go in cap in hand with these experts or icons or people. Yeah. It really kind of going in and getting that confidence to say, you know, I'm developing this, and most people will give you their time if you're quite focused at that point.
Yeah.
Great. I'm going to move on. Is that okay? Unless I'm going to do, I think I'm going to kind of, can we go for 10 more minutes, or would you prefer to have a break now? Would you like to do, I've got one more activity I wanted to do, but we can do, would people like a break, or could we do 10 more minutes and have a break?
I'm fine. I'm not sure about everyone else.
Yeah, I'm fine.
10 more minutes?
10 minutes.
Yeah, good. Yeah. Okay, so get that question down in your notebooks, kind of come back to that question. Again, when you're approaching people, always how they can add value and what are you going to be exchanging. Okay, so I want to kind of think about training and development programs like the Launchpad program you're doing, the Fuel program, thinking about where you get your resource and inspiration from. There's lots of business planning programs, there's lots of business planning books, and we're talking about startup programs, accelerators, lots of resource. In fact, there's a heap of resource out there. And often the key thing is to do stuff, talk to people, do stuff, test your ideas. And it sounds like everyone's in that mindset and reaching out and looking to connect with people. So fantastic. I think, and there's a range of programs that might supplement what you're doing. So for me, when I'm often working on motivational programs, so you need filling up and feeling confident to get out there and activate. There's kind of functional programs. How do I do a business plan? How do I do my cash flow forecast? And there's kind of awareness programs as well, which is kind of pre-start or awareness to sort of finance or funding. And I think they're all kind of interesting, and please check all of them out. I think often we're thinking about ideas and market, we're thinking about motivation, I'm going to look at ability and skills, and I'm going to certainly look at resources. In terms of all of that needs to be captured in your business planning program. And until you've considered some of these issues, then and only then do we think about the organization we're putting around the idea and this key process or the key ingredients and what's our recipe to create our business plan. And that's what we're going to kind of look at today. So we're kind of going around this iterative process, iterative circular. We kind of sometimes go 2 steps forward and 3 back, and we go forward again. But I'd like to think of it as more circular. That, when you maybe started on Fuel, or maybe before pre-Fuel was a program, you maybe had no idea. Or you might still be in that raw idea phase, and you want to try and validate that idea. When do I know an idea is a good idea? When do I know it has value? Indeed, when do I know it's an opportunity for me? That's the key step. Is this an opportunity for me before you approach anybody else? Because we're all in different situations, have different motivations, we have different resources, and different enthusiasms, and you don't want to kind of stay sane in the process. So is it for me? It may be an opportunity for your team and not you, or a business partner and not you. It may not be no for you, not now. It could be right now. So that kind of deal, this is how we're validating the idea, we're putting some planning in place. And then we sign a scale and we get requirements in place. And then we kind of negotiate the planning and launching, planning to launch. Often people are test trading. I recommend test trading as part of the last stage on that iterative process. Negotiating to start involves test trading. You don't know often it's a good idea until you sell something. I recommend selling stuff really early, because people may say they like something, they like you, they're very respectful, particularly British people. Do you want this? Do you like it? Yes. But until they're part of their cash, then you kind of know that you've exchanged some value. So just thinking about the new venture creation model, and a lot of programs, and I'm not putting fuel in this bag, don't think about the core at the center of that diagram. They don't think about motivation. They're very good at functional things like the planning and these kind of things you can really learn from textbooks, how to put a plan together, cash flow. You can buy someone and do it really. And but ultimately you are the business at the minute, you and your team, and that motivation has to be clear in your mind. So one of the first reasons of doing a business plan is for you as the audience, so writing a plan for you. Okay, so we're writing a plan. We've talked about validating an idea. Do a quick activity before break. Just try and think about ideas. I've positioned ideas, enterprise ideas or ideas for new ventures, as currency. You know, I often hide into teams, like I'm the non-medic on the team, I'm the non-engineer on the team, and often the less I know about the innovation, I'm often the non-techie on the team when we're getting new products to market. But what I do, what I'm brought in to do is to generate ideas for the commercialization, or often I'm brought in to commercialize the team's ideas. That's what I do know about. So when do we know an idea is a good one? I would say, you know, we have to know what the idea is and where the value resides, and then we start working on what the opportunity is. So there's some ideas here that you may be, I don't know, you guys, you may be familiar with these products that are flying off the shelf at the minute, you might not be. We've got Doggles, we've got GPS Voices, we've got Cyberflat Cafes, you may be familiar with all of these. If we take the first one, number one, Doggles, can someone tell me what the idea is? What's the product or service idea? And could they say who the customer is? So what's the idea, who's the customer, and what's the value to that customer? Why would they purchase it? So start with, who would like to go with Doggles? Number one. What's the idea? Who's the customer? Yep.
They goggles for dogs. Just
yeah.
Out there.
Who's it? So what's the customer?
Dog owners.
Yeah, it goes into the dog then. So yeah, so dog owners, yeah. And what's the value? So is it a good idea? What's the value for dog owners?
Is it like sunglasses for dogs when they're out walking in the sun?
Absolutely. It's a product that flies off the shelves. Anybody bought any? They fly up. You can get them in the UK, but they kind of fly off the shelves in places. I was looking at my office window. That's a lot sunnier than here, like you say. Places like the big product in New Zealand, in Australia, where there's a different kind of ozone layer. The highest disease in canines in Australia is retina damage. So they're a med tech device, actually. No surprise, I'll put them on there. They're a medical device, and they're to protect. They're cheap. They're an expensive product, and the value is that they are preventative of retina damage in the canine. So yeah, they're a med tech product. Brilliant. Let's go for Cyberflat Cafe, a Russian idea. So this is an innovation. So the first was innovation, a product. The second is this third one we're going to do, or the second example, number 3, is the Cyberflat Cafe. There's one in, you've been to one, anyone? There's one in King's Cross. There's one in Edinburgh at the minute. It's a Russian idea, Cyberflat. Anybody been to a Cyberflat Cafe, the techies out there?
No idea. I've not even heard of it, to be honest.
Okay, so Cyberflat's an interesting, so if I said to you, it's a cafe. It's a cafe that's located near major, it's a global thing now. It's a Russian idea. It's a cafe that's located near major transport routes, so like King's Cross. yeah, nodes of transport in a country, or airports. Who might the customer be? It's a cafe. Who might the customer be that wants to be near airports or railway stations, main lines of communication? If I said to you, I'm talking until someone shouts. If I said to you, it's a coffee shop, coffee and snacks or tea, and the coffee and business people, yeah, people like me, freelancers that have a laptop, and I don't want to be at my kitchen table. In coronavirus, I kind of am. But if I don't, generally I don't want to meet in lobbies of hotels, a bit sleazy. So I don't want clients at home. So in Zyber Flat Cafe is great for me. Free Wi-Fi. If I said to you all the coffee and snacks are free, and it's innovating and creative on the business model, how might they generate income? Coffee and meals you have to buy, but as much coffee, free Wi-Fi, snacks are free. Client, the customer is a freelancer, a remote worker.
Paying for time.
Do you know, so is it Sophie or Sophia? Sophia?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So you go in, have you been in one? Have you used one?
I've never even heard of one. I'm just trying to think what would help me.
Yeah, great. So I'm the worst customer in these cafes. So I'll go and meet colleagues. And the great thing about being self-employed, you get to work with your mates often. So you meet for coffee at the same time. And I'm the worst client because I go in and a coffee will last an hour. We might get a second coffee on the second hour. So the cafe, that's not great. So they recognizing that, they give you a clock when you go in, and you pay for $5 for every 20 minutes, which is great for me because our tax return, entertainment's not allowed anymore, but meetings are.
All right.
So if I spend 15 quid for a meeting, fine, free coffee, snacks, Wi-Fi, 4 of us meet, I put that through my books. Great, tax, that's great. So it's an innovation on a business model. I put that up there because can you see the value to me as a freelance worker running my own small business is great. Because I don't want a hot desk or, I go to a cafe. If I had a different hat on and I'm maybe a dad with young kids, it might not be great. Or if I stay at home dad and I'm taking my kids out, that might not be the environment for me, yeah? So they're targeting particularly at freelance workers and great Wi-Fi, free coffees and snacks. And for me, I might not want to pay 15 quid for an hour if I was just taking the kids out. But if it's a meeting and that's great and I don't have to hire a room and I can jump off the train, jump back on the train. Brilliant. Can you see that the value is to a particular client, and it's quite an innovation on the business model but it's a cafe at the end of the day. It's still a cafe, yeah? You could go and have a dinner. Anyone can go in. It's open to the public, but you can see how it's set up. It's attracting a particular client. Is that clear? Any questions on the Zyber Flat? Let's just take 1 or 2 more, and we'll have some coffee ourselves on the theme of coffee. Let's go for, deceased diamonds. That's a big one at the minute. Anyone familiar with this product?
Is this where they turn your ashes into a diamond?
Yeah, we're all stardust, aren't we? We're all stardust. And so, so it's in, and what's the value of turning human remains into diamonds? Who might the customer be, and what's the value to that customer?
Sentimental value members, wealthy ones.
Wealthy, yeah. Can you tell me more? I don't know who they might be. Sentimental, family members, wealthy.
Famous, possibly, celebrities.
Maybe not. Interesting, in terms of it solves a problem in the UK because we're out of land in terms of burial. Actually, the one before as well. Anyone heard of Eternal Reefs, a similar industry? So it's about the depressing, isn't it? Eternal Reefs are quite an interesting one. So that's number 7. You can see the picture next to the diamond to me it's the left of the diamond. That's particularly Eternal Reefs are, again, a lot of people have an affinity with the sea. Maybe you work on oil rigs, or you live by the sea, or you're a sailor and you want to be buried at sea, but there's a lot of regulations around that. So Eternal Reefs again is putting the ashes into a structure. Can you see the kind of dome-shaped structure? That's actually and why it's called Eternal Reefs. Places like the Barrier Reef around Australia, they need support to grow. They need structures in there. It's kind of a conservation idea. So obviously your ashes are at sea, feeding the coral reef, but also the capsule that is in Your ashes are contained and is sunk and buried and put in place, and it's supporting the growth, of the Great Barrier Reef. It's amazing. So that's interesting. Again, that's an affinity for people, particularly that want to be buried at sea. Last but not least, anyone going into a smoke easy? Quite controversial, these ideas. You don't have to like ideas as well to see the value. So who might be the client of a smoke easy?
Smokers.
Yeah, why? What's the value to a smoker?
They want somewhere to smoke. Is it somewhere for smokers to smoke?
Yeah, again, you can. So in the business model, so it's illegal. So you get fined, I guess, in the UK to smoke in public spaces, and you see people huddling outside of doorways, don't you? When you see them in the rain, and you see them. I don't even think smokers want to be huddled and have second. I'm not a smoker, but I don't want to. I know that it's not great for anyone to have secondhand smoke. So smoke-easies take the hit and the fines. They're quite controversial. They're based on the idea of speakeasies when there was an alcohol ban in the States. So smoke-easies factor into their cash flow fines. And they just take that hit and continue on. Interesting. But again, so innovation, so there's a value to a certain customer group. And like some of these ideas you might like, you might not like. Any of the ones I didn't go on, describe there. There's at the end of the presentation, there's information on any of the other ones. So the key point here is knowing what the idea is. Yes, it's important. What are goggles? Are they just sunglasses? Yeah, but what the value is, you know, a lot of those, like you kind of, I think Matthew was saying for the diamonds, a lot of those services are niche and they're premium price. Yeah, you might not, and they are targeted at a very specific consumer, customer, user group. So I'd like you to think, we're going to take a tea break, but I'd like you to write down for yourself or think of a tea break. We'll just take, I think, 10 minutes to start with, and we'll crack on. We'll take 10 minutes. Is that enough for people, 10 minutes to go? Tab, P, tea. Think about what your idea is right now. What the value is of your idea, the currency of your idea, and to which specific customer group might exchange or appreciate the value you're creating. I'm not saying you only have one type of customer, but I'd like to identify your idea, a customer, and the value to that customer. Is that clear? Just think about that for yourselves while we're having a tea break. Okay, so I make it, what time is it? I make it 15:15. Is that, should we come back? So let's just say we'll come back at around 11:30. Is that okay? 11:30? I'm going to, Lizzie, I'm going to keep the, do I just keep the camera on? Is that okay?
Yeah, it's up to you. If you want to put your camera off and go for a break yourself, that's the I'll stay here.
Break? Yes. Is it okay if I take a break? It's half. It's half. So. Still 12:30. Okay. Okay.
I think let's all go for a quarter of an hour break. Yeah.
Okay, brilliant. See, so I've got thinking about that question: idea, value, and customer. Perfect. See you in a bit. I'm just going to take.